Welcome back to Winners and Losers, the show that looks at the highs and the lows from around world football this weekend. I hope you had a great weekend yourselves sat at home. Chris Hamill, aka Specs Gonzalez, is in the hot seat, and we start as ever with the talking point. You guys at home have been voting for what you want us to talk about, and you voted for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's move to Arsenal, yeah? But Chris Hamill, there are lots of different reports going on about this. What is it?
Not actually German.
Not actually German. He's Gabonese, but he's at a German club, so kind of get away with it.
Almost worked. Well, Damasio are kicking us off. They think Aubameyang has agreed a contract with Arsenal until 2021, worth £10 million a season. They think the two clubs are now just hammering out a fee after an initial £44 million bid was rejected. Ivan Gazidis and Sven Mislintat, Arsenal's sort of director of football, both in Dortmund, discussing that. David Ornstein, aka the Ornicle, aka Ornhub, Arsenal's premier Twitter chief.
I'm Orny.
Yeah, Journo. Claims that if they sign him for around 55 million, which is a bid that Dortmund are readily willing to accept, that there'll be no more money for further signings in January. Arsenal fans will have to make do. Let's go over to our transfer guru. It's Spanish football expert commenting on German football this time, Guillaume Balaguer, for his thoughts.
Well, it's quite clear that Arsenal are in conversations with the player and with Borussia Dortmund. They think that they've convinced the player to join Arsenal, but of course there's still a big obstacle to beat, which is Borussia Dortmund. Tomorrow is going to be an important day. Nobody expects this to happen in this early part of the week. It may take the whole week or even more, because they will hear tomorrow, Arsenal, if Borussia Dortmund are selling cheaply, are selling expensively, or are selling it quickly. Just the details of what Borussia wants to do, or if they want to sell at all. Arsenal are willing to pay 60 million euros for the player. Somebody that they were interested in the summer decided not to go for him. It would have been more expensive then, actually, but 60 million euros is what they expect to take the player to Arsenal. But as I said, tomorrow Borussia Dortmund will come back to Arsenal with their conditions, or just the fact that they won't want to sell at all. The impression from Arsenal, they are optimistic. They think this is a deal that could be done, but of course there's still a lot of things to do for that to happen.
Dortmund are a little bit off after this incident, though. Obviously, Arsenal have been talking to Aubameyang and Vatska and Michael Zorc. Not happy bunnies behind the scene. Obviously, Aubameyang was left out of the weekend's game and the weekend's squad against Hertha Berlin because he's been kicking up a right fuss behind the scenes. There are a few rumours that he hasn't got the best attitude, he's wanting to move all the time. So Arsene Wenger has been asked the question, does he or does he not think he would be a bad influence on the squad, and how would he fit in? Let's see what the big man had to say.
Yes, because character can be a very positive note and can be a very negative note, you know. So I believe overall you look at the achievement of a player during his career, and usually when the career has been very positive, a character has been used in a positive way.
So, clearly Wenger wants him at the club, and I'm sort of in agreement in that you just get very good players at your club and solve the personnel situation a little bit further down the line. He's a high calibre of player. He's what Arsenal need in terms of goals, in terms of a marquee signing, someone to lift the spirits of the club following Sanchez's departure. However, with Mkhitaryan also coming in, it does start to seem a little bit unfathomable. You've got Mkhitaryan and Ozil, who both want to play in the number 10 position. Yeah. You've got Lacazette, who's clearly at his best in the box.
100%.
Despite having played out wide on the left for Lyon, my thinking is if Aubameyang comes in, he's probably more adept to play on the wing, although that's probably to his detriment.
100%.
Having arrived for £50 million, do you ask the player to adjust his game this early on in his Arsenal career? And then who plays on the right?
It's a really weird one. I asked everyone on Twitter yesterday as well, and nobody seems to have a logical response. A lot of people were suggesting kind of a 4-2-2-2, where Ozil and Mkhitaryan kind of play as floating 10s, drift in and out, and then you play Aubameyang and Lacazette up front in a similar sort of situation to how RB Leipzig manage their players. But then I worry whether the likes of Kolasinac and Hector Bellerin can provide adequate width to the team. Mkhitaryan at times has been very poor out wide for Manchester United. He's far better operating centrally. You can't ask Mesut Ozil to drift out onto a flank. He's far better operating centrally, and both of the strikers are extremely adept inside the box. I think Aubameyang takes around 3.6 shots per 90 from inside the area. So I'm just wondering how they all fit together. It's a bit of a puzzle at the moment.
Who plays in that midfield too as well?
Exactly.
Elneny and Xhaka?
Or Xhaka and Wilshere, Xhaka and Ramsey potentially. What you will say though is that Mkhitaryan and Aubameyang do have a past link. 15-16 season, Borussia Dortmund, they were extremely good together. I think Mkhitaryan got 19 goals, 24 assists, and Aubameyang got 40 goals and 7 assists. So those two do have a past link, which is a positive for Arsenal. And I do agree with you. If you have the chance to sign these players, you've got to get them done. But where do you guys at home think these players fit in? And what system should Arsene Wenger play? Because to us, it's madness. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Our first winner comes from Micah Dozinho on Twitter. If you want to be involved next weekend, send your suggestions for winners and losers into Christopher Hamill. His handle is on screen around about here. And he suggests Chelsea because they pumped Brighton, Hamill.
They did 4-0 to maintain their unbeaten record of 12 games in all competitions. If they actually won this, they'd have been on 50 points.
Flames.
Good enough to put them top in the previous 2 seasons.
Oof.
Factoid there for you. But Hazard had an absolutely brilliant game. He was unstoppable at points, and his opening goal was his 100th career league goal. He's now been involved in over 100 Premier League goals for the Blues with 65 goals and 37 assists, putting him ahead of the one and only Gianfranco Zola.
Little magician.
His man of the match performance entailed this: 2 goals from 2 shots on target. He created 3 chances as well and had 92 touches on the day, which was a match high. Other goals came from Willian and Victor Moses. What about that ball from Masonda for the Moses
dirty.
goal? Masonda gas. Fabri Sonda.
Ooh.
All of the above. And out of favour, Michy Batshuayi started due to Morata's suspension and recorded his first Premier League assist since his debut in August 2016. I think he played extremely well on the day. His touch eluded him at various points, but he was an extremely willing runner, worked the channels as well, and there was a real handful all day. I think Chelsea should put their trust in him rather than pursue these house target men. I don't believe that for a second, but I think Conte actually wanted Andy Carroll. He's
definitely
lost his head, because the last time Andy Carroll moved in January was a roaring success.
But let's talk a little bit about Brighton, because they are starting to struggle down in 16th place now, just 1 point off the drop zone. And if I was Chris Hughton, maybe starting to panic a little bit. 1 win in his last 13. I don't think he will get sacked, but managers, as we've seen, and we're going to talk about in a bit, have been sacked for a lot less.
They did put up a good show in second half.
Not too bad, not too bad.
Lacking goals, just signed someone from PSV to help in that department, and the right back, Gelado.
Yeah,
the ice cream looked a handful.
Definitely lacking goals. Not necessarily lacking shots, because they had 10 in this game, although a lot of them were from range. I mean, only 3 of them were on target, and then Davy Proper did hit the bar, which doesn't count as a shot on target. But don't really agree with Chris Hughton when he says the scoreline didn't reflect the game. We deserve something out of it. We should have had 2 penalties. I think Chelsea were fully deserving of being winners. Yeah. Hazard, I thought, ran the roost completely. Very easy day at the office for Eden Hazard. Far too much space. I think it was his second goal. The defending was an absolute shambles, where he was just walking a straight line into the box.
Wasn't he taken off in the last Premier League game after 60 minutes when they desperately needed a goal? and now he's come back.
Yeah.
It's a signal
I
of
believe
intent,
so.
isn't it?
I believe it is.
Maybe good management from Conte.
And I would just start to be a little bit worried if I was a Brighton fan. But nevertheless, Chelsea keep marching on up the table. 12 games unbeaten in all competitions. So big up Antonio Conte. You're in our winners.
Our first losers were sent in by Robbie_Brooks98, who suggested Watford and Silva as a result of Silva's imminent departure and Watford's loss to Leicester. A lot of you suggested this. You wanted us to talk about Marco Silva leaving the Watford setup, so we drafted in our mate Guillaume Balaguer to give his opinion on matters.
Right, this is the debate for this week. Marco Silva gets a sack, and Javi Gracia, great replacement by the way, somebody that adds lots of tactical layers into teams because he works so hard in training, and he loves the little detail and makes players better, no doubt about that. Good replacement. A lot of clubs are becoming like Watford. They are becoming clubs that are run by an idea in which everybody has to adapt, from the head coach to the director of football, and an idea that comes from the top. When that happens, the coach stroke manager is only one part of the machine. So Watford have been always very brave and generally very good in taking those managers out of there and putting another one in, having done all the work that it requires to identify which managers or coaches can do that job. When there is an idea, when there is a structure, when there is people that adapt to that structure and not the other way around, it's easy to come out and find a solution. So I wouldn't put Watford into one of those clubs that do things wrong and change far too quickly. I will put them into the ones that says this is how the future is gonna look like, and it should not be a drama to lose your man when, as I said, the structure and the idea is in place. But what do you think?
Now, it's an interesting stance, that, isn't it? Because I was firmly expecting Guillaume to take the side of Marco Silva. Most of us do, naturally, in this situation, don't we, as opposed to the club or the organisation. But it's quite an interesting observation that the positives are trying to make the club more than the sum of its parts, including the manager, who is quite omnipotent in English football. Do you think they're going to continue to find success with this mode of operating?
I don't think they'll continue to find success, but at the moment it's working for them. So I don't think they've got a reason to change it. They've had 10 managers in the last 5 years, and it's served them pretty well. They've climbed up the divisions. They're now in 10th in the Premier League, like you said. But that 10th kind of hides a few problems. 1 win in their last 11. They're actually only 5 points off the relegation zone. We've sat and talked on this show, and on Sunday Vibes in particular, about how much we like Marco Silva. But in this case, it's hard to argue with Watford's decision. Because look, their statement made it very, very clear that Marco Silva's head had been turned when Everton came into play, and they rejected a £15 million bid for Marco Silva, which I'm pretty sure they're not too happy about now. But nevertheless, if Silva's head had been turned, they had to react. They're starting to slip down the table. A lot of other clubs have reacted. We've seen Sam Allardyce come in at Everton. We've seen Pardew come in. We've seen Hodgson come in.
Lambert at Stoke.
Yeah, Lambert at Stoke. So they have reacted, and they've reacted by appointing Javi Gracia. Now, Guillaume obviously really, really likes Javi Gracia. He's had, I believe, 11 clubs now. 7 of them he's only lasted a year at. Rubin Kazan, the latest of which he kind of parted on mutual consent, I think. I don't know much about Gracia, and I think Watford fans will be slightly concerned it's a bit of a risk. But nevertheless, let's hear from the big man himself.
I'm looking for another experience in my life. I'm very happy to be here. I had experience in different countries, like Greece, like Russia, and okay, I'm looking for to be happy, to be with my family, and to work in football is all I want. It's not easy to arrive in this moment, when the league has opened. But it's our work. You must be ready. In this moment, Watford called me, and I'm very grateful and plenty of energy to to win the rest of the matches.
Fascinating to hear from Gracia there. Hadn't heard of him much like you beforehand, so it'll be interesting to see how his career develops at the Hornets. Although one thing has been made clear, Richarlison not happy, bring up tweet. Ding, ding, ding. Anyway, to compound a miserable weekend for the Hornets, they lost 2-0 away at home to the mighty Leicester City. Come on, you Foxes, with goals from Jamie Vardy and Riyad Mahrez scoring in the 91st minute. Thank you for those vital Fantasy Premier League points. But Leicester edged possession again under Puel, becoming possession hounds, unlike previous regimes. But Watford did manage more shots with 11-9, although Leicester had more on target with 5-3. The Foxes becoming quite clinical of late. Jamie Vardy especially scoring his 10th goal of the season. A penalty that he won all by himself. He's actually won more penalties than any other player in the Premier League in the past however long. Bring that up on screen. Only Mo Salah has a better shooting accuracy as well, with 60% to Jamie Vardy's 58%. Watford now haven't kept a clean sheet in 12 games. That's their longest run since October 2016. And only Stoke have fallen behind in more games. That's 18 than Watford's 17 this season. Again, alluding to the papering over the cracks that 10th place was, that Joe talked about earlier. It looked like it was going to happen sooner rather than later, although I do back Marco Silva to 100%. Bounce back with a solid mid-table job. Maybe if Pellegrino can't get Southampton firing, he might end up there, although they were pretty impressive against Tottenham yesterday, from a defensive point of view. Anyway, as they have been this season.
Still can't score a goal.
That's 6 draws in the last 15 games.
Aubameyang, really?
Almost scored though. So moving on.
Should have scored. Our next winner was suggested by Ander Williams11 on Twitter. Thanks very much, Ander. And he suggested we talk about Arsenal, Hamster.
Yeah, they absolutely smashed Crystal Palace's back doors in, beat them 4-1 to record their first victory in all competitions since beating Palace 3-2 way back in December now. Alexis Sanchez was the hero that day with 2 goals, but step up Nacho Cheese Monreal, who scored 1 and assisted 2 in just 13 minutes before going off 20 minutes later. So an action-packed half an hour from the Spanish defender. But Arsenal came out all guns blazing, Joseph, scoring 4 goals from 9 shots they had in the opening 24 minutes. Around half the total amount of shots they managed over the entirety of the 90. So they didn't save the best till last. They absolutely walloped them in the opening stages. Alex Iwobi, also on form, scored a 1 goal from 4 shots. Was a menace throughout, had 79 touches, completed all of his take-ons, and put in 3 tackles and interceptions on the day. Actually thought he was probably Arsenal's best player against Bournemouth. He's maturing slightly, still frustrating elements to his game, but he's improving. Long may it continue, because he could be great at the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this game, Palace kind of down tools a little bit after that early trouncing, like you said. The game was killed off in the early 13, 14 minutes, really, wasn't it? And it's a little bit unlike Hodgson's men. Hodgson has done a really, really good job, a slightly underrated job since he took over there. Maybe a little bit unlucky not to win Manager of the Month this month, I have to say. He had no signings, really, and yet he has turned the fortunes of the club on their head. So well done, Roy Hodgson, but in this game, your side were not good enough. Just 37% possession, and they were under constant pressure. In the second half, we kind of talk about the first half killing Palace off. In the second half alone, Arsenal created 5 clear-cut chances. That's not good enough for a Premier League side. Palace created just 1. And that outlet ball to the likes of Christian Benteke continues to be a problem. Christian Benteke's form must be a thorn in Hodgson's side. He got an assist, but took just 1 shot in the entire game. He won just 40% of his aerial duels. You're expecting better from a real target man in Christian Benteke. Maybe his head has been turned a little bit by links to Chelsea.
What a finish though from Mihailovic.
Yeah, what a finish. But maybe Benteke's head's been turned a little bit by Chelsea. That is Palace dropping down to 13th now. So still not too bad after a terrible start under De Boer. But they are still just 3 points off the relegation zone. So they need to keep that form that they experienced through December up and forget this result quickly. But for Arsenal, another win and Alexis Sanchez firmly in the rearview mirror.
Our final loser comes from at London is White. Either a Spurs fan or a UKIPper.
Oof.
See what I did there? Mixing football with politics, making it accessible to the youth. And he's put Spurs in there. DJ Redhead, spin that.
Well, on paper, this doesn't look like too bad of a result, does it? 1-1 at St Mary's, but when you dig a little bit deeper, it gets a bit ugly for Tottenham Hotspur. They could have gone level on points with Liverpool in 4th if they had won this game. All other members of the top 6, other than Liverpool who played tonight, picked up 3 points as well, and Southampton haven't won in 11 games. I know you're going to talk a little bit about that. Spurs as well were very dominant, 60% possession. I think they had 17 shots, but just 2 of those came on target, which is surprising given the form of Harry Kane. He's got 11 in his last 6, but the likes of Dele Alli, Heung-min Son, Moussa Sissoko struggled a little bit. Moussa Sissoko in particular, I was really surprised to see him starting in this game in quite an advanced position as well. And I think Tottenham Hotspur fans are a little bit worried about what's going on in the transfer market. Who are we going to go for? I know they're linked with Malcolm quite heavily, but given this press conference, it doesn't look like you're going to sign anyone.
Until today, now, no one is close to arrive in this transfer window. But maybe in 5 minutes something happened. But until now, before the press conference, nothing close.
Yeah, I was also a little bit puzzled as to Eric Dyer's role in this game as well. I'm not sure a player like him was necessarily needed on the pitch alongside Moussa Dembele. I think Spurs were fairly ineffectual going forward, but you've got to give Southampton a lot of credit for that. Stevens was very good in defence.
He was, yeah.
Serves me correctly. James Ward-Prowse was a constant threat from set pieces. His set pieces are obviously world class. We know that at this point, but a few good long field raking balls. Southampton are an absolute menace down the left-hand side as well. Ryan Bertrand's overlaps.
Yeah, brilliant.
Something to behold. But yes, Southampton ultimately are in a little bit of trouble. This is their longest winless run since October 1998, and their longest run across a single season since March 1995. They've now lost 9 points from winning positions at St Mary's this season, more than any other side at home, and their lack of creativity in front of goal, Buffal on the bench as well, is really costing them.
He missed a great chance too.
Isn't it? Yeah, the
ball rolled back to him
and he wound it up and he ended up hitting the defender, didn't he? Again, if my memory serves me correctly. But like we said, the problem is finishing. They've had the 8th most shots in the league with 290, but scored the 13th most goals. One bright point for the Saints though was, without the buzzer going off, was striker Michael Obafemi making his debut at 17 years and 199 days. The Saints' second youngest player ever. A big well done to him despite missing a bit of a sitter.
How did he miss?
Saw his name in the headlines, fluffed his lines, but we've all been there. Not in the Premier League, 5-a-side Sunday League, you know.
In the bedroom.
Can't even score there. Yeah, in the bedroom. Southampton now have Watford up next in the FA Cup, and Spurs face a tough trip to Newport, or vice versa. Less said about that fixture, the better. Let's move on.
That's the end of winners and losers. If you want to be involved next week, send your suggestions to Chris and vote on the talking point on my Twitter account. But first, FDFC, big game. What's happening, Hammer?
Oh, mate, I got so excited about it. I've started to choke on my own spit. I'm playing a game tomorrow. Our video should be up at the weekend. My God. That's it. I can't breathe.
It's against Soccer AM, so hopefully we win. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.